Chess YouTube, it is only move 8, and here Arjun Erigaisi, the Indian Tiger, the madman, you know him, you love him. He plays the move G4, launching the attack versus the GOAT Magnus Carlsen in this week's Titled Tuesday tournament. And trust me, if you want to see a truly insane game today, featuring not 2, not 3, but 4 queens on the board, this is the game for you. It's all I'm going to say about it. All right, in the game, Arjun, playing as white, opens 1d4 and Magnus d5. Now, how will Arjun continue in this game? If you know anything about Arjun, you know he loves very weird, aggressive openings, and I can't think of a weirder or more aggressive opening than the Jobava London with knight c3 and then 3, bishop to f4. Already on move 4, white here, threatening knight b5, targeting c7, and trying to fork the king and the rook. Now, this threat is very simple, but very dangerous. And how is Black going to respond in this game? Black here has a ton of different ideas versus the Jobava London. He can go c5, e6, a6, g6. There are tons and tons of ideas. But in the game, Magnus here goes for one of the more solid ways to play. Simply c5, pressuring d4 immediately. Now here, white's got to defend the pawn. e3 is the move. And here, Magnus, he trades on d4, c takes, white takes back, no surprise there. And then finally, blocking knight b5 is the move a6. Magnus here, gaining control of the b5 square, stopping knight b5 once and for all. And from here, he's going to continue perhaps knight c6, e6, and so on, getting a good game. But of course, Arjun, this guy is not done. He is just getting started with the threats in this game. Here he goes, knight to f3, developing, so far so good. Magnus, knight c6, and now, instead of say, I don't know, bishop to e2 in castles or queen d2 in long castles, here Arjun, he plays the strongest idea, knight to e5. Arjun jumping in with his knight, a very typical London idea. However, it's not just about complonking the knight on the e5 square. It is about launching the g-pawn up the board as quickly as possible, with it being supported by the knight on the e5 square. Now, Magnus, bishop d7 is the move, developing, kind of a weird move, but he's trying to go rook c8 as fast as he can. And here, Arjun, he lights the board on fire with the move g4. With this move, Arjun is literally all in on the kingside. He cannot castle kingside. That would be strategic suicide. So instead, Arjun is committed to castling queenside with perhaps queen to d2 in long castles, and also launching the g-pawn and the h-pawns up the board as quickly as humanly possible. Now, Magnus, this guy is totally on his game. He goes h6, guarding g5, and trying to slow down the critical g5 advance. However, Arjun, he knows this, and he simply trades on c6. We have knight takes c6, Black takes back with the bishop, bishop takes c6, and then queen to f3, the very strong move, lining up the queen with the bishop, which looks a little bit strange. However, there is no easy way to open up the board anytime soon, and therefore the queen on f3 is actually quite safe, and white is intending long castles ASAP. Now, Magnus, e6 is the move. Logical, trying to bring out his dark squared bishop, and here Arjun, long castles is the move, funnily enough. Now, Magnus, how do you want to get counterplay against the white position? Well, he begins. b5, gaining space on the queen side, threatening b4. Technically not the strongest move. Instead, here, queen to a5, actually quite a bit stronger, potentially intending bishop b4, and on and on. Instead, b5 played in the game, and Arjun, he goes king b1, sliding his king over off the c-file, which could be very useful later in the game. Now, Magnus, the move is rook to c8. Another slightly inaccurate move. Instead, moves like b4 and queen b6 are the top engine lines. Instead, rook c8, and here Arjun, he does his best to punish this move, and he plays the move bishop d3, and the idea behind this move is simple. If Black goes b4, as Magnus did in the game, then the knight goes back to the e2 square behind the bishop, with the bishop already developed on d3. For example, b4 played in the game, then Arjun, knight c to e2, the knight drops back to the e2 square, and the bishop on d3 is quite active, and the attack on the king side continues. Now, Magnus, bishop b5. He's doing everything he can here to get rid of his weak light squared bishop, that being the so-called bad bishop, as all of Black's pawns are on the light square. So it makes a lot of sense trying to trade off his worst piece here and continue the attack against the white king. Now, Arjun, he trades on b5. Bishop takes b5, and black takes back with the a pawn. A takes b5. Black now has a slightly weaker pawn structure on the queen side. However, he does gain the open a file to attack, and stopping these pawns with, say, c3 or a3 would not be a good idea at all. Therefore, black is set up to get a lot of pressure on the a file with perhaps queen to a5, rook to a8, and so on. Now, here, Arjun, he knows in this position it is all about the attack against the black king. You simply cannot slow down. You are all in. You must continue as quickly as possible, and he begins h4, intending g5, trying to blow open the king side. Magnus, queen b6, counterattacking on the d4 square, and Arjun, knight c1, dropping back to the c1 square, defending d3 and b3 with his knight. Now, Magnus, queen c6, threatening c2. Queen takes c2 would be a deadly threat, therefore white has to defend, and Arjun goes queen to e2, dropping back one square, defending c2, and so on. Now, Magnus, how does he want to continue? His king on the e8 square is still very vulnerable. We're seeing the queen on e2 lining up with the king, and although there aren't any real threats yet against the black king, that could change any moment. Therefore, black here, he's got to find some way to get his king castled on the king side or safe elsewhere on the board. So, Magnus, how does he accomplish that task? He goes bishop e7, intending short castles. However, this move is a little bit too slow. And here, Arjun, the Punisher, he finds the key idea, g5, finally, once again, pushing the g-pawn. It started his journey on move 8, and now on move 19, it finally attacks the knight. Now, Magnus, knight to e4. He jumps in, the knight being very active on the e4 square, pressuring g5, pressuring the king side, or the queen side, and so on. A good multi-purpose move. But now here, Arjun, f3, driving back the knight once again. And here's the problem. Where can you go with that piece? g5, obviously out of the cards. f6 also out of the question. The only decent square now is d6. All right, Magnus here. Before going back to the d6 square, here he trades on g5. We have h takes, then h takes, then rook takes, and bishop takes g5. Here, Magnus winning one single pawn, but of course, Arjun has the attack on the knight, the attack on the h8 square. So many threats here are playable. What should he be doing? Here, he continues. Bishop takes g5, trading bishops, black takes back, and then knight d3, jumping up and threatening b4, and that pawn on b4 is basically as good as gone, as in the long run, there's simply no way to defend that pawn. All right, black, queen c4, trying to pin the knight on d3 to the queen on the e2 square. Of course, now taking on b4 would lose the queen or the knight. Either way, not a good idea for white. However, the h8 square is still vulnerable, and Arjun Erigaisi, rook to h8 is the move, flying in to the back rank, hitting the king. The king must go to e7, and then b3 drives back the queen from c4. Queen c3 is now the move, and here we have rook takes, queen takes, and finally knight takes b4. So the dust has settled. Both sides have about 1 minute left on the clock in this insane Title Tuesday blitz game. White here has the 4 versus 2 majority on the queen side right here, whereas black having the 3 versus 1 majority on the king side. That means black must attack on the king side, white on the queen side. It's really anyone's game right here, right now. All right, in this position, Magnus, he makes a critical mistake. He plays the move king to f6. Now, so far, he's played a phenomenal game, but this one mistake gives Arjun a key chance to find a brilliant series of ideas and run away with the lead in this game. So, if you like puzzles, pause the video right now and try to find the key idea for Arjun Erigaisi right now in this position, and comment down below if you think you found it. It's actually a pretty cool idea. I'll reveal it at the end of the video. All right, now, queen takes b5 is the move. Arjun winning the free pawn on b5, but missing a somewhat stronger idea elsewhere on the board. Now, Magnus, queen c3, he flies in, pressures the knight, pressures f3, and so on. A good move here from black, and now queen b6 is the move from white. Now, Magnus, king to f5, and then queen c5, offering the trade of queens. But here, Magnus, he ignores the trade and takes on f3. Magnus getting 2 passed pawns on the king side, White getting 2 on the queen side. Again, it's anyone's game. And White here, his plan, push these pawns, especially the A pawn, down the board ASAP. And Black is doing the same, pushing these pawns, especially the G pawn, down the board as quickly as humanly possible. So Arjun, he begins A4. The standard idea, that pass pawn must be pushed. Black, knight e4, attacks the queen on c5. Queen c7, gets out of the way of the attack. Queen d1, hits the king. King to a2, and then f6. Now, knight d3, defending, and g5. The G pawn begins its march down the board as quickly as it can. Now, a5, Arjun also not slowing down, and here Magnus, he makes a little bit of a mistake. Knight d2, actually, more than a little bit, this is quite a big mistake, because here Arjun has a beautiful, beautiful tactical shot. Again, if you like puzzles, pause the video and find the one right here. And this one is so good, I have to show it to you. The idea is queen to h7 hits the king. And where can the king go? The only square literally is g4, but then knight to f2 hits the king and the queen. For example, queen h7. The only move, king g4, is met by knight to f2, forking the king and the queen, and White wins the game effectively on the spot. Instead, in the game, queen c3 chosen by Arjun, defending, missing the idea. Both sides in extreme time pressure here. Knight e4. The knight drops back. Queen b2, going back to the b2 square. Queen d2. Then b4, Arjun pushing his pawns. g4, a6, g3, a7, g2, a8 queen, g1 queen. Both sides having 2 queens on the board. Here we go. All right. Queen to h8. The queen slides over to the h8 square. Then queen d to h2, offering the trade. Here, Arjun, he goes for it. He trades queens and then goes b5, but missing a stronger idea. There were lots of ideas. King b3 and many others being better. The pawn on b5 is a little bit weak now. Here, Magnus, queen b8, flying back, attacking b5, b6, then queen to a8 hits the king. King b1, knight d2 hits the king again. King c1, and then knight c4 hits the queen on the b2 square. From here, b7, pushing the pawn, attacking the queen. Queen to h8, the queen slides over. Queen b4, sliding up. Queen to h1 is the king. Knight to e1, queen h6, king b1, knight d2 check, king to a2, and knight to c4. Magnus here, going back and forth with his pieces, trying everything he can to defend and distract Arjun. But Arjun, this guy is not slowing down. b8 promotes to a queen. The third, actually, the 5th queen in this game so far. Queen c1, defending. Queen g3, Arjun with the 2 queens. Can he defeat Black with 2 queens? Or is Magnus literally that good where he can win despite being down the queen? Well, both sides in extreme time pressure. Less than 4 seconds left on the clock for both sides. Literally anything can happen in this game. All right, king to e4. The king slides up. Queen to f3. King takes d4, winning another pawn. And here, White has a forced checkmate in 2 moves. Again, comment down below if you see checkmate in 2 moves here for White. All right, queen to f2. Sliding back, hitting the king. King to e4. Queen g2. King f5. Queen h3, king g6. A good old-fashioned king hunt has begun. Queen d3, f5, queen e2, king to f6, queen c3. The other queen enters the attack. e5, knight d3 hits the queen. Queen g1, knight takes e5. The walls are closing in on Magnus here in this game. He fights back, though. Queen to a7, hitting the king. Again, both sides, 4 seconds left on the clock. King b1, queen b6, king a2, queen a7, king b1, queen b6. If Arjun goes king to a2, it is a draw on the spot by 3-fold repetition. So instead, king c1, the game goes on. Queen g1 hits the king. Queen d1, queen g5, king b1, knight takes e5. Black winning the piece, but is it enough? Queen takes d5, overloading the pinned knight. The knight cannot move as it's pinned to the king by the other queen. Queen g1 hits the king. King to a2, queen a7, queen c to a5, blocking the attack, queen d7, and here, the final move of the game, queen to d8, pinning the other queen to the king, and White will be left with the queen in the end, and therefore here, Magnus, he resigns on the spot to Arjun Erigaisi in this absolutely insane game in the Jobava London, where Arjun goes for the very fast and very dangerous 8g4, launching the attack on the king side. Now, real fast, if you enjoyed this video, show me some love. Smash that YouTube like button, the little bell there, and also comment down below what you thought of the game or if you found the combinations earlier in the game. And again, as always, if you want to learn directly from me and level up your chess very, very fast, I have students gaining 200 to 300 points in less than a month in my community. If that's something you want to do, gain 200 to 300 ELO in literally less than 1 month, as some of my students are doing right now, go to school.com/chessmindset. Links also down below in the description and the pinned comment. So again, my students are getting insane results right now. If you want results like that, go right there. I'll see you in the community and we'll go from there. And as always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond. And I'll see you in the next video.